All right, everyone. So the Fed rate decision is coming up later this month, and I thought it'd be fun to look at the past 5 Fed chairs and rank them, give them a scorecard, a citizen scorecard on how well they performed a certain aspect of their job, which was controlling the inflation rate. So if you go to the Fed website, Congress has assigned the Fed to conduct the nation's monetary policy, and their goals are maximum employment and stable prices. These are what's known as the Fed's dual mandate. So I grabbed all the inflation numbers since 1979 when Paul Volcker became Fed chair, and all the way up to 2025 when current Fed chair Jerome Powell, no home Jerome, was chairman. And then we've got these guys in between. We've got Mr. Greenspan, Ben Don't Bernanke Me, and Janet Yellen. And we've got their inflation numbers. We've also got the unemployment rate as well, which I think we're going to do in another video. We might run out of time to analyze both inflation and unemployment. So we're just going to look at inflation first. We're going to look at the average rate during their tenure, the starting rate, the ending rate, the percentage change, so how much they either brought it down or brought it up, the highest rate during their tenure, and the lowest rate. And we'll use this other website, how much value did the dollar lose? This inflation calculator website that shows you, how much value the dollar lost. It uses the CPI data. This should be fun. We're going to see which one did the best. So let's get right into it. And we're going to use an average if formula to pull in the average inflation rate during their tenure. Okay. And so we see that Volcker had the highest average and Yellen had the lowest average, and the rest were all kind of close there. But let's pull in these starting rates to see how they're doing. So we'll start with Volcker. It looks like his starting rate was the highest, 11.3. And at the same time, we'll pull in the ending rate. So we'll get his ending rate there, 1.9. Already we see that's good. Greenspan started at 3.7 and ending at 3.4. And Ben Bernanke, he was starting at 3.2, ending at 1.5. Now Janet Yellen, starting at 1.6. Easy one there. Ending rate, how did she do? Ending at 2.1. And finally, no home Jerome, 2.4. And although his tenure's not up, just take the current one now, 2.7. Okay, so now let's grab the percentage change from that. Okay, cool. So we got the percentage change. So, cool. So we see under Yellen, it started at 1.6, went up to 2.1, so a 31% increase. For Bernanke, started at 3.2, went down to 1.5, so a 53% decrease. And then Greenspan started at 3.7, ended at 3.4, an 8% decrease. Jerome Powell starting at 2.4% and ending at 2.7%, a 12.5% increase. And then Volcker starting at 11.3, going all the way down to 1.9, an 83% decrease. He brought inflation down 83% there. So very interesting to see that. And now let's grab the highest rate. So for Volcker, it looks like it's 13.5, which was quite high. Greenspan, gonna eyeball it here. Actually, I'll filter it. Greenspan was 5.4, so not too bad, I guess. And Bernanke, highest 3.8. Looks like he had negative inflation, deflation, I guess you might call that, in 2009. And who are we missing? Yellen. Yellen highest was 2.1, and Jerome highest 8 in 2022. Big print there. Okay, lowest rate for Jerome, 1.2. And let's go over to Bernanke. Lowest rate, yeah, it was the negative one. Where's Bernanke? There. Okay. And who else we got here? We got to get Yellen in there. Lowest rate, 10 basis points, 0.1. Okay. And Greenspan, 1.6. And let's see what Volcker did. Lowest, 1.9. Lowest was at the end of his tenure. So you see from Volcker, it just kept going down year after year. He had consistency there, I guess, except for 1980. But like I said, he took over in August. So I guess didn't have much time in 1979 to really work on it. All right. So we can see that Volcker had the highest, but also one of the, not the lowest, but a pretty low one below the 2% mark, which is kind of what they like to have. Powell 8 to 2, so a decent spread. Greenspan 5.4 to 1.6. And then, Yellen looks like she had the smallest spread, I think, there, of between about a 2% spread there. So that's kind of interesting to see. Now we'll see how much did the dollar lose under each one of their terms. So here's kind of how it works. So you say, if in 1986 I purchased an item for $1, then in 1979 that same item would have cost 60 cents. It lost 33.8% of its value there. So that was under Volcker. So we'll do minus 33.8. Cool. So next we'll do Greenspan, which would be 1987 and 2005. So we'll do 2005, 5 to 1980. And okay, 57.8% for Greenspan there. So minus 57.8. And next is Ben Bernanke. So that's 2013 to 2006. And I realize this is imperfect. This is just a game. 13.5%. Okay. That was Bernanke. And actually, what I'm going to do is divide it by their tenure later so I can see how much they lost per year, because that's more fair. Yellen, 2014 and 2017. 2017 and 2014, 3.4%. Because, she had the least amount of time to basically mess things up. And then Powell, 2018 to 2025. So we'll do it here. 2018, 22.7%. Yikes. Minus 22.7%. All right, now we're going to divide it by their years in office so we can get a true comparison. Okay, so I grabbed their tenure. I grabbed it from Wikipedia, where it actually tells you. For Volcker, I put 8 years. Greenspan, 18.5. Bernanke, I rounded up to 8. Janet was a solid 4. And Jerome, I put at 8 years as well. And then I divided that over this thing, or under this thing, and we get the loss per year. And we see that if we sort it, Volcker, 33% over 8 years. Greenspan, 3% per year. Powell, almost 3% per year. Bernanke, 1.7% per year. And Yellen, 0.85% per year. So what do you guys think? Who was the best Fed chair and who was the worst Fed chair? I'm going to now try to give them a score, a grade. And it's going to be very subjective. And so definitely let me know how you would rank this, how you would score them. But let's start with Volcker. So if I'm his teacher and I see that Volcker, he started with a rate of 11.3% and finished at 1.9, decreased it by 83%. I got to give that really high marks there. He started with a bad situation and made it a lot better. I'm going to give this guy an A. I'm giving Volcker an A. I'll put it right there. All right. Next in line is Greenspan. So Greenspan, starting rate 3.7 and decreased it to 3.4. The highest he ever let it go was 5.4 and the lowest it went was 1.6. That being said, over his tenure, the dollar did lose 57%, which was bad. And he had a great starting point, 3.7. 3.7's not that high. I mean, it's bad, but it's not that high. he's going to get maybe like a B. I think a B would be fair. So Greenspan gets a B. Yeah, after all, look, it was loss per year about 3.12. That's actually pretty bad. I think I might give him a C. Yeah, I think I'm going to give him a C now that I look at that. That was pretty bad. So Greenspan gets a C. Next, moving on to Bernanke. So Bernanke, where is he? He brought it down from 3.2 to 1.5. So down 53%. Highest rate was 3.8. Lowest, he had deflation. Dollar lost 13% over his 8 years and down 1.69% on average per year. Bernanke, I mean, the numbers look good for him, so I think we're going to have to give him a B if I'm being fair. Okay, so B for Ben. Next up, Janet Yellen, the shortest tenured one, just 4 years on the job. Didn't have a lot of time to screw things up. Didn't lose that much, had the best starting point, but it actually ended higher for her. It ended up 31%. So that's not good because it ended higher. That's a bad thing. Highest rate 2.1, lowest rate 0.1. So she took a very good situation and made it a little bit worse. So for that, I'm going to have to give her probably a D because it went up. So Janet Yellen is getting a D so far. And now, time to bring it home. No home Jerome. Let's see, Powell, starting at average 3.48. Although Janet did have the lowest average, but it did go up. And having the lowest average doesn't matter. To me, this change here. So Powell, anyways, start at 2.4. He's not finished yet, but up to 2.7 and up 12.5%. Dollar lost 22% in his tenure. Highest rate was 8%. 8%. That's kind of one of the biggest spreads. And if we look at it, 2.4, 1.8, 1.2, 4.7, and then boom, 8.4 brings it down there. So, Jerome, I'm sorry, buddy, but dollar down on average 2.84%. I'm going to have to give you an F. I'm going to give you a failing grade on this very scientific system. So Jerome Powell gets a failing grade. I'm sorry, he gets an F. So those are my rankings. I'm sure people disagree with it. I know this is flawed, guys. This is just, I had some time on my hands and wanted to play around. One, you'd have to believe the inflation data. You'd also have to believe that inflation is price levels rising, whereas some people, I think the Austrian economists, argue that it's the expansion of the money and credit supply. I'm inclined to agree with them there. And you'd also have to understand the starting point. So look, I know this is flawed, but just wanted to throw it out there and see what other people think. How would you grade these Fed chairpersons? What would be your rankings? Super interested to hear. Leave a comment below. Hope you guys enjoyed. And if you did, let me know. Give it a like. And if this gets enough views and likes, I'll do another one for the unemployment rate. If not, this will just go into YouTube obscurity. So thanks everyone for watching. Have a great one. See you in another video.